Warm greetings to each and every one of you. My name is Paul-André Durocher. I'm the Archbishop of Gatineau. I would like to present to you my pastoral letter on the follow-up to the synodal process in our diocese. This letter is entitled Our Project, Christ's Mission, Our Path, Synodality. Mission and synodality are two words, one quite old and the other quite new. Mission has been around for a long time in our church. Christ, in his last words to his disciples, according to the Gospel of Matthew, was to send them out onto a mission. Go to all nations, make disciples. When I was a child, missions were important. We raised money for the missions. We had commissioning celebrations, missioning celebrations, where we would send off priests or religious who are going out to the missions. But today we realize that mission implies a commitment here and now. Mission is to our world. It's very close to home, to our families, to our friends, to our workplaces, to our centers of leisure and our neighborhoods. So if mission isn't new, certainly the form it takes for us today is new. An old world, but a new reality. Synodality, on the other hand, is truly a new word that has taken off with Pope Francis. It's Francis's way of speaking of a principle where we listen to the voice of the Spirit speaking through the people of God, inviting us to be attentive to that voice of the Spirit in God's people. And he has chosen as the next theme for the Synod of Bishops to be held in 2022, the title For a Synodal Church, Communion, Participation, and Mission. And at the very beginning of the church, synodality was chosen as a path for mission. We can read in the Acts of the Apostles how in Antioch, the community came together to discern the ways forward in prayer and in discussion and in reflection. They were able to hear the Spirit speaking through the community, and that's how they sent Barnabas and St. Paul to bring good news to the other countries around the Mediterranean. We entered into a synodal process nearly 3 years ago. After consultation with the Diocesan Pastoral Council and the Presbyteral Council, I decided to engage this process where we listen to each other in various forums, people who were delegated by parish, by movements, with the priests and the lay pastoral associates. We tried to reflect together around this theme, Christ, us, our communities, our neighborhoods. Because we have a relationship with Christ, we form communities, but these communities are not meant to be closed in on themselves. They are entrusted with Christ's mission to go out to our neighborhoods and to our world, to be witnesses of God's presence in the life of the world. Our process was supposed to take 1.5 years. Well, it took 3 years, first of all, because we realized as we moved forward that it would take more time to listen to each other, to pray together. And then, of course, the pandemic arrived. And the pandemic, we continued to meet through the means of telecommunications today, the internet, and we were able to reflect together on new realities that the pandemic was forcing us to confront. Maybe they were older realities, but we just hadn't looked at them so radically. And among the things that came forward was the questions around the relevance and even the viability of some of our Christian communities. The question of ministry, of priests and of lay pastoral associates. The question of the commitment of volunteers. We're recognizing that most of our volunteers are older and they're finding it very difficult to find people to replace them. What place does our church have in society itself today? We know the government didn't consider that attending church was an essential service that had to be provided during the pandemic. What questions that raise about the place of the church in our society and the effectiveness of our forms of outreach and support. And the pandemic also made us aware of needs, the needs for families to be trained in accompanying their children and their youth in growing in the faith, the need to learn new forms of communication, to develop a kind of a hybrid pastoral activity that includes both virtual presence and face-to-face communication. The need for companionship, particularly among our older parishioners and citizens who suffer from great loneliness, and the need to support our communities that are faced with the precariousness of human and financial resources. It allowed us also, the pandemic, to review some of the things that we had learned earlier in the synodal process. We realized more deeply that partnership has to be a key principle as we move forward. We're going to have to help each other between parishes and movements and with the diocese. We became more aware of the difference between the rural realities of our diocese and the urban realities. We became aware that more and more faithful realize that we do have a mission to the world. We became aware to a greater extent of the lifeblood that is circulating in our immigrant communities now, how many of them are bringing new riches to the life of our parishes and our movements. And finally, synodality itself. People have expressed their desire to discuss, to encounter each other, to reflect together, and to pray together, to find the paths that need to be taken for the future. So throughout all of this reflection, I drew up a proposal which was discussed with delegates to the synod, with the diocesan pastoral council and with the diocesan presbyteral council. And out of this has emerged a consensus which allows me now to fix the pastoral priorities of the moment. So the first priority remains the need for our communities and movements to enter into a pastoral conversion where we realize that we do not exist for ourselves, but for the people to whom Christ is sending us. We need to be able to open ourselves to this world which is ours, to live Christ's mission both individually and together. All our activities need to become opportunities to share the gospel and to live in solidarity, particularly with the poor of our environments. In all things, we have to help our brothers and sisters discover Jesus, to build a relationship with him, and to cultivate his kingdom of justice and of peace and of joy. And so the title of our synodal process, Christ, us, our communities, and our neighborhoods, continues to be relevant. Now, in this mission, we want to be particularly attentive to two groups. And the first group are our younger families, and particularly those that come from immigration. They need to be welcomed and accompanied and integrated into our Christian communities. In this regard, we want to favor an intergenerational approach to catechesis, one where children, youth, and young adults are journeying together in growing in the faith. The Pope has decreed a year of the family, and it's currently in progress. So this will give us an occasion to enter into this year of the family. And the second group that we want to pay particular attention to are our elderly, who are often isolated, who suffer from loneliness and need presence, a listening ear, and support. And so I would like our communities, our Christian communities, to become centers of attention for the elderly, particularly those who have no family or friends nearby. In order to give hands and feet to this mission, we want to opt for two approaches. First is partnership. I've already mentioned it. This will be a favored path forward, especially given the growing fragility of our Christian communities. We can't take on Christ's mission if we're closed in parochialism. We can't be focused on inside each other. We need to work together. And so these partnerships between the diocesan team and parish teams between parishes of a common zone, parishes of movements. We need to count on each other to move forward together with confidence. And the second path that we want to favor then is this hybrid pastoral ministry where we really take advantage of the tools that the internet offers us in an intelligent and creative ways. We want to equip ourselves and to learn efficiently to use these tools that modern technology offers us. And we'll learn from the best practices from other dioceses around the world and movements and other churches. We can learn a lot from them. So let me sum that up again. We have to focus on the mission, the pastoral conversion to mission, particularly towards our young families and our elderly, and we will do this through building partnerships and by adopting a hybrid pastoral ministry combining both virtual and face-to-face presence. At the same time, I want to announce that we will create a new diocesan structure, a permanent synodal assembly, which will allow delegates, both lay and clergy, from the rural and the urban environments, from our movements, from various sectors, young and old, to gather once or twice a year to discuss a particular issue. The Diocesan Pastoral Council has shown its worth, I could say, in leading this process. And so I continue to count on the Diocesan Pastoral Council to act as a kind of an executive to this permanent synodal assembly, to determine the themes, to prepare the meetings, to follow up on the meetings, and to evaluate them and make sure that they do not remain just a pure discussion, but they truly become sources of action. We already have some synodal structures in our diocese. I think of the Diocesan Pastoral Council, particularly of the priests, the Diocesan Council of Priests, and also our finance council. So we want to look at them to see how they can work more efficiently in a synodal process. Next steps, well, I entrust to the Diocesan Pastoral Animation Committee, with the participation of the Diocesan Pastoral Council, the preparation of an action plan, including establishing priorities, concrete objectives, proposed activities, and a timetable. And I would like this committee to focus, particularly in the next few months, on Pope Francis's recent initiative in preparation for the synod that he's called for 2022, the Synod of Bishops. He wants each diocese to be involved in the preparation program, so we will do this as part of our own ongoing synodal process. We've recently celebrated Pentecost. This day brings to mind the great gift of the Spirit to the disciples of Christ, the Spirit that was given us in baptism, making us sons and daughters of God with Jesus, the Spirit that was renewed at confirmation, entrusting us, uniting us to Christ in his mission to the world. This Spirit empowers each and every one of us to participate in the identity and mission of Christ. And it is in that capacity that we're called to take part in the discernment and implementation of the impulses of the Spirit. So let us listen to Francis's words. The path of synodality is the path that God expects from the Church in the third millennium. And let's respond to this beautiful challenge together, uniting our voices to sing our faith, and you joining hands to walk on the roads of this world which God has loved so deeply. With this thought, I bless you with all my heart. Take care.